Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course hearing about how awesome Starlinks are in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Starlink Tyler, and joining me today on another episode of Snail Trail 4x4 is the one and only Mr. Co-host extraordinaire. That's what I was thinking of. Thanks for the help, Jimmy. Mr. Jimmy Jett. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm the only one around me in my small little circle that is not sick right now.
Yeah, I'm sick, kind of. I think I just have like sinus thing going on from all the dust in Moab and coming back. It started hitting me while we were in Moab and then just like hit me full force while we were driving back. And I was like, I can't drive anymore. Secretary, you have to drive. And then I've been like down and out for the past couple of days. And today's the first day I've been feeling okay.
And allergies are pretty bad right now around us as well in this area. Now that everything's in bloom and all my my cars are green because there's so much pollen on them right now. Yep.
Did you hear that we almost set a new record today?
No.
I know how much you love your weather records.
Oh, for heat?
For heat, yeah.
I didn't know that we were even close. Wow.
Yep. Tahoe tied the all-time heat record for today.
Dang.
And I think Sacramento was 1 degree off.
We still got time. It's only 3:00.
Mm-hmm. So
I think we'll get there.
No, sorry. That's the projections for Sunday. That's what it was.
Oh,
yeah. So we're looking at Sunday because that's the hottest point this week. And they're looking at Tahoe tying the record currently. And then Sacramento is going to be like 1 degree off, something like that. But yeah, that's in like a few days. So we still got time, like you said, to break some records here, man.
Yep. And then next week, it's supposed to be down in the 70s.
Yeah. we're hitting like 83 this weekend or something like that.
90. We're up in the 90s.
We're up in the 90s this weekend? Shit.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
That is going to be crazy.
Yeah, you're all sick over there. You're COVID negative.
I am COVID negative, so that's nice.
Sick.
I'm not prego, so I took a test.
I'm not too worried. Yeah, I'm not too worried about hanging out with you, but the assistant and the mini assistant are both sick. And so I'm like, and they have the stomach flu, which is not fun.
Yeah, I'd much rather have what I have than be throwing up everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my parents came home from Europe and they both have COVID.
Oh, look at you.
I know. So I'm like, oh man, you guys, who needs me to get what right now?
I know. Right. Weren't we talking the other day about how like you almost never get sick and how you're, a supreme specimen or whatever?
That's what I like to tell everybody, but I don't remember saying it.
No, I'm pretty sure you said it. We were sitting at breakfast at brunch in the brunch restaurant, and how you've never had a broken bone or stitches. And
I've never had stitches, but I've broken a few bones. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember what it was.
You mean when we chopped down the tree?
No, we were talking. That day, but we were brunch at the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like, you're just such a supreme human species specimen. And you're like, yep, I agree.
I still agree.
Okay, perfect. So, today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. This is Thursday. We have a little bit of housekeeping to do. Not much since we're kind of at the end of the month here. We do have few gift boxes left over that we are giving away 2 of them to 2 lucky winners for this month's giveaway. So if you guys want to get in for that, make sure you go over to irate4x4.com. Also over there is the gift box tier that is currently open, and it will be open for a couple more days. So if you guys want to move around tiers and, bump up tiers or get in on the gift box tier for October, I guarantee you, I think 90% of our listeners out there are going to really enjoy October's gift box. So make sure you get signed up over at irate4x4.com. If you guys want to move around or mess around with your subscription tiers, you can do that. Just realize that after you sign up on irate4x4, which is for whatever tier you want to go on, go over to your PayPal account and manage your subscriptions over on PayPal to make sure that you close off your old tiers and the old stuff that you're moving out of. So you do that through managing your subscriptions over on your PayPal account.
Yeah, excellent. I have seen a lot of movement on the people changing to the gift box tier, which is going to be fun. We're excited for this next one to go out.
Yep.
But yeah, I do want to reiterate, just if you are moving any tiers, just go onto your PayPal account and you have to cancel your subscriptions. Changing accounts or changing positions in the tiers, it does not automatically do it for you. So yeah, Correct. You have to take it upon yourself to go over to your PayPal account and cancel the old one.
Sweet. Let's see. Did we have May's giveaway all squared away? Can we tease that yet?
I don't know. Do we?
I don't think we do. So we'll hold off on teasing that until we get that squared away for everybody out there. Thursday's episode today, I think I don't know. Was there any other housekeeping stuff you wanted to get to? I think today's episode is going to go a little long, so.
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Sweet. Yeah. So we have Jimmy and I just got back from Cruise Moab, and we haven't really gotten to sit down and update everybody on what we got done right before Cruise Moab, and then each of our adventures heading out to Cruise Moab. So we're going to kind of split Moab up into, I guess, 2 different episodes here. One of them will be the adventures leading up to Cruise Moab itself, the event from Toyota Land Cruiser Association. And then Monday's episode here will be kind of how Cruise Moab went for us and the event itself. So kind of a trip down memory lane and some feedbacks of how Cruise Moab went from our perspectives. And so, yeah, Thursday's episode is going to be kind of our adventures leading into Moab. I know that I think last time we chatted, because we did a bunch of episodes before going to Moab, and we haven't really sat down to record after that. I think last time we chatted, you were working on your steering box and you weren't sure if you were going to get everything lined up, bled, and the frame plates all finished welding on, and the pitman arm on, and which pitman arm you were going to use. And then you also had the rear springs you swapped out on Bobcat and how all that worked out. So let's get an update on everything you did here, like literally the last 2 days before going out to Moab.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. So I believe the last time we spoke, I had the frame plates welded on and I was painting them.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the power steering box was not mounted yet. Mm-hmm. And nothing was really aligned or anything was set up. The rear leaves were done. The Tundra leaf springs were on, but I didn't make a line lock yet, which is what I ended up doing.
Parking brake.
Because the Willwood electronic brakes didn't line up well because I have leaf springs and there's no real safe or great spot to put those on. I ended up buying the rough stuff El Camino ones, and the way that the e-brake actuates with the cable is just the wrong direction for the way that the Toyota has them set up. And so really my last ditch effort was a line lock. And like I think I said it before, Hussman was going to an automatic transmission, so he doesn't really need a line lock anymore. And so he pulled his out, and I told him, well, if he ever chooses to have a line lock again, let me know and I'll buy him a line lock setup. Yeah. So he came over on Wednesday and we buttoned up the line lock, and that wasn't terribly difficult. It took us a matter of hours. We ended up using the Speedway Motorsports kit.
Nice.
The nylon lines and crimp fittings that are in that, and set that up completely with these flexible lines, which are really cool. And it had made it so I didn't have to bend any tubing or any hard wire all the way up into the cab. We ended up mounting the line lock directly underneath the steering wheel. There's like this metal, I don't know, bash plate for your knees or something, maybe some protection one way or another. But we mounted it right on top of there, and it was a great position because it's like literally right in front of me. It's easy to push. It's easy to activate and watch it deactivate. So that worked out really well.
Nice.
On Saturday morning, Hustle Nuts came.
All you had to do for the line lock was you just ran that Speedway Motors nylon line pretty much straight out of your master cylinder, right?
Correct. Yeah. I ran it from the master cylinder into the line lock and then out of the line lock. And I got pretty much a female to female connection and then butted the line that came out of the line lock into the rear wheels line right there. And so it's only like two 24-inch runs or 30-inch runs to connect everything.
Yeah, and you plugged it right into essentially the rear hard line for the brakes that was originally there, that originally was plugged into the master cylinder, right?
Correct.
So you didn't really have to modify any of the brake system that was there. So if you end up not needing the line lock in the future, you can just take it out and put the brakes right back into the cylinder.
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it worked out really, really well. It was really easy. And having those flexible lines made it a piece of cake because you can just bend them and twist them and put them wherever you wanted.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it was super cool.
It turned out really clean. And with how simple and easy it was, I really like that route for the installation. So
yeah, it worked great whenever I used it. So
perfect.
Let's see. So the power steering box went on fine for the most part. We did that on Saturday morning. We put the power steering box on. We used the 3/4 inch drop pitman arm from Sky's Offroad.
Okay.
Which is roughly 3/8 shorter than the stock pitman arm.
Okay.
Once we put everything together, it was quite easy. We noticed quite easily that it pretty much does max turn to turn.
Nice.
And so it was really all my stops were still hitting on the axle. So 3/4 or 3/8 of an inch shorter doesn't really affect the total steering, which is a good thing to do.
That's good to know. Yeah. Was it, did you have to make a new drag link? I know that you were talking about finding a thread for the drag link versus doing weld bungs or anything.
Yeah. So it was tie rods. I was trying to make a new tie rod, and I couldn't find anything that was a good solution without buying new tubing and new bungs and welding it all together and making a completely new one. So I just used my old one, the one that I had forever and a day that was ever so slightly bent. And it worked fine, leading up to me disassembling it. So I figured it'd work fine for another trip, just one more trip, Yeah, so I just put the the tie rod on that I had forever that had that slight bend in it. The benefit of that also was that there was already the welded on bracket for the hydro assist.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to find one of those as well. And then since we set that alignment and we were able to align the tires there, then we could add the drag link. And I think we had to do one full turn of one of the tie rods that went into I think we did the pitman arm side, and that's all the length. That's all the longer, how much longer we needed the drag link to be. So It wasn't even that much.
So you just reused the stock drag link too.
Yeah.
Or the one you had on before. Maybe not stock because it didn't come with one. Okay. So that's cool. So you got to reuse your tie rod and drag link. I'm sure that helped a ton being able to do that.
Yeah. I'm still going to replace the tie rod here in the future because it is bent and I do want to fix that and make it straight again. I never did buy the taps. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go that route or go the weld-in style. I'm still trying to figure that out. But so we buttoned everything together in a matter of hours. I think it took us 2 or 3 hours, 2.5 hours to get the power steering box on, get the alignment done, put the hydro assist back in, plumb all that back together, tighten everything up and bled. And we were ready to roll for the most part. And so I did a test drive out to Prairie City and went and watched the NorCal Rock Racing out there with Hustle Nuts and my buddy Joey and got to see Jason out there and Samurai James and a few other friendly faces, Carlos from Tac One Fab. And yeah, there was some good friends, good people out there.
Did you see what Samurai James just got?
I did. We talked about it at the race.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Exciting for Samurai James to get a Jesse Haynes goat built chassis.
Yeah. That's pretty rad.
Buggy.
Yep.
So that'll be rad. I don't know if he's going to change his Instagram handle, but we'll see.
Yeah, Buggy James.
Yeah, I told him he should change it to James the Goat.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That, or he needs to change the grill and get rid of that Jeep grill and build a Samurai grill up there.
That's what he should do. Put a Samurai grill on the buggy. That'd be cool.
Yeah. He needs to get rid of the Jeep grill anyway, regardless.
Yeah, so. Regardless. I don't know. He has a Jeep now, so.
Yeah. That's true.
He went to the dark side.
He did indeed. So the races were fun. It was fun to see a lot of people. It was fun to catch up with some friends and watch some of the racing go down, and watched Cody got to say hi to Cody Addington, who we've interviewed once or twice, and got to see Derek Miller and talk to Megan and about their adventure. And yeah, it was a good time. I left slightly early because I had a few things going on and had to start packing and getting ready to take off because weather was coming in over the Sierras. And it was going to drop about a foot of snow on Monday night, and Clifford doesn't have 4-wheel drive, and I would be towing, and they'd want chains on the trailer and chains on Clifford. And I was scheduled to leave on Tuesday, but I said, sorry, babe, I've got to go a day early. I can't, I'm going to get stuck otherwise and not make it through. And
you got to beat that weather through.
I had to beat the weather. So, I left a little early. I had another obligation to go to, which I can't remember what it is at the moment, but then I had to start packing and getting everything ready to go a day earlier than I expected. So,
gotcha. So did you stay long enough to see what happened to Megan Miller's car?
No, I wasn't there then.
Okay.
I left when, I forgot what class it was, but there was this racer that just hit the rock section and nailed the K-rail and landed on the K-rail and just totally effed up his front axle. And nice. And so I wanted to see it get pulled off to see if I could see any of the carnage, but it just took so long to get that vehicle off. I was like, I gotta go. Yeah. I had dinner plans or something, and I had to meet up with somebody. So I had to take off pretty early. No, the assistant was out wine tasting, and I was supposed to meet her, and I was already running late. That's what it was.
Wine tasting or watching carnage at Prairie City? Which one do you want to go with?
It was a good day.
Yeah. Usually the rock racing out at Prairie City usually is quite entertaining.
It is. But, I worked on a rig in the morning. I fixed it. I drove the rig to the races. I watched the racing, and then I went back and drank some wine. And then I went back to the house and I started some whiskey. And that's when I sent a picture to Jason and Chris. And I said, went from racing and wheeling to wine tasting. Now I'm on the whiskey.
Nice. Which whiskey did you get?
Oh, I don't remember what it was. It was just one of ours went off the shelf.
Gotcha.
I did get a nice new bottle, though. I was supposed to bring it to Moab and completely forgot. And so now we have 2 of them here at the house. And so I might have to bring one of those down to the warehouse, maybe.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking at Megan's Instagram right now. It looks like a wheel lug studs came off or something. I was going to say,
I'm not entirely sure.
It looked at first like it was a ball joint issue, which I was going to say, oh, how awesome is that going to be? But no, it looks like the whole knuckle is still on there, and it looks like the wheel's just missing. So
yeah, I'm not sure if the lug nuts loosened and the wheel just flew off the lugs, or if the lugs snapped, or a combo of both, but somewhere in that one of those rock sections, she lost a whole entire wheel, just left the chat.
See ya. That's funny. So yeah, she's all good. She's all fine. So just the car got beat up a little bit, and I'm sure we'll see her back out on the track shortly. So.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yep. So let's see. So on Monday, I went to the shop. I ran a bunch of panels, and once I was done with the panels, I loaded the Bobcat up onto the trailer in Clifford, and I was pretty much already packed by then. And I went to the UPS store, dropped off all the panels, and then I started out on my trip. And my trip was pretty uneventful. I was out going off solo. I did get, Clifford had that exhaust leak and I got that fixed, and I could tell a huge difference driving up and over the Sierras with fixing that exhaust.
Up and over Donner Summit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a few really big poles on this side that gets you up there.
The Blue Canyon pole's the worst.
Oh yeah. They're all pretty bad, but, it has more power. Like I couldn't really tell just putting around on the street, but when you put all the weight behind it, I was cruising up those hills. It was nice.
That's cool.
I got into Utah. I got to the Bonneville Salt Flats and I crashed there for the night.
Okay.
I parked next to some trucks and, I brought a sleeping bag and a pillow and just slept in the back of Clifford, and I've slept for about 5 hours until I think one of the truckers woke up and turned his generator on, or it just got too cold in there and generator automatically kicked on and woke me up because I thought I was getting robbed and there was this huge bomb explosion or something next to me.
Yeah.
And then I went across the street and got a coffee and then hit the road. And I think I got down into Moab about 1 o'clock ish and found the house. Nobody was there. So I let myself in and relaxed for a hot moment. And then you guys showed up a little later.
Yeah. And that was on Tuesday, right?
That was on Tuesday, when Tuesday you got about 1 o'clock.
Nice. Yeah. So you got Bobcat all fixed up. Did you get everything done on Bobcat that you were trying to get done for Moab?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I believe I got the rear taillights done. The leaf springs done. An e-brake, if you want to count the line lock. I did a few different versions of e-brakes. The steering, which is partially fixed. I still want to clean it up a little bit. And I think those are all the things I really wanted to get done. There is a headlight out on Bobcat that I think the LED thing failed, and it's just, a headlight issue.
Gotcha.
But they didn't care. I think when I went through tech, he's like wanted to see my lights. So I turned it on and it lit up the wall. And then he started to walk around the front, and then he's like asked me to turn on my blinkers. So then I turned my lights off really quick. So he couldn't see that one of them was out. And then, I don't have a horn, which is the other thing that I think they check in tech, but he didn't check it for me this time. So
yeah. Cool. Well, we'll talk about tech on when we get into Monday's episode, because I think there's a couple fun stories there from tech. But so that's cool, man. So your trip was fairly uneventful. Got to spend the night at the Bonneville Salt Flats, which is pretty cool. That's neat. I wish I could have done that, but we'll have to see if I can do that next year. But yeah, man. No issues coming in. You got everything done on Bobcat and made it in a day early.
Yeah.
So cool.
Earlier than I expected, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. My trip in was interesting. The couple of days leading up to the trip, we talked a little bit about it on, I think one of the episodes we launched before we left, and that I was getting the trailer ready to go because we were going to take the Bronco out.
Correct.
And we were going to tow the camping trailer. And so kind of what was the setup and the plans for the camping trailer, and mainly getting all the electrical buttoned up and functional so that it was ready to go for the trip. So, a few things, I guess, on that episode, I think we talked about the engine in the Bronco.
Yeah.
And that it was I had the 4-cylinder, 2.7 liter.
Okay. Yes.
I do not have. I have the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder inline engine in the Bronco. I could have sworn that when I was buying the Bronco and looking at everything on it, that it had the 2.7 liter engine listed on the window tag.
So there's 2 4-cylinders?
No, I was correct. The very first time we ever talked about it, I was correct. The 2.7 liter is a V6.
Oh.
It's a tiny little V6 2.7 liter
So
engine.
The 2.7 liter is a V6 and the 2.3 liter is a inline 4?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. And so I have the inline 4, the 2.3 liter. So that explains a lot of the mystery, because I was like, I thought I had the 2.7 liter, but I definitely had a 4-cylinder engine. I can at least count cylinders, right? And so I finally, one day out at Moab, I was like, I need to figure this out, which I have, because I got a listener response saying, no, you had it right the first time. The 2.7 liter is a V6. And I was like, well, I definitely have an inline 4, but I was fairly certain I had the 2.7 liter as well. So I went and looked at the tag in the hood in the engine bay, and it's the 2.3 liter in the Bronco. Yeah.
Turboed though.
It is. It has a single turbo. The 2.7 V6 has a twin turbo set up on it. But the inline 4 has a single turbo. It's a bigger turbo, but it's, after learning that and then having my experience of towing and driving the Bronco around with the camping trailer, I'm very impressed with how good that 2.3 liter is. And it explains actually quite a bit as to kind of some of my findings of towing the camping trailer with the Bronco. So going out, we ended up going kind of the southern route, but not Highway 50. We went really south. Okay. So we went down to Baker, California, which is kind of down near Mojave.
Bakersfield?
No, Baker, California. It's out in the near the Mojave Preserve.
Okay.
So, we went down to Mojave the first night. So it took us eight and a half hours to get down there from Sacramento, and camped out in the
right. Towing. I mean, if you're driving without the trailer, it would have been a little quicker, but you were towing. So it took a little bit more time.
Yep. Okay. Towing. So I did 62 miles an hour the whole time, with the trailer and the Bronco. And, I got about 15 miles per gallon, 14 to 15 miles per gallon, which is pretty much what the Bronco gets without towing a trailer.
Really?
Yeah. Which was surprising. Wow. I was like, well, okay, that's interesting. And so I thought I had the 2.7. Again, I'm thinking I have the 2.7 liter. I'm like, wow, this engine just does good towing. Once we got out of California and got into Nevada, I started upping the speed, and I went up to 75 miles an hour. I'm testing it out to see how the wind resistance is, because the trailer is just a big block. It's not aerodynamic at all. And that's one thing I want to fix about it, is the aerodynamics. And up at 75 miles an hour, I get 8 miles per gallon.
Oh, wow.
So that change from 62 to 72, 10 miles per hour plummets.
10 miles per gallon.
Plummets 10 miles per hour. It plummets the gas mileage about 8 miles per gallon, 7 to 8.
Sure.
So I was like, wow, that's interesting. So at 62 miles an hour, I get pretty much almost full miles per gallon without the as without the trailer. But once you start getting above like 65 miles per hour, the gas mileage just plummets from there on out, which kind of explains, that inline 4 with the turbo, it does great. It has a really good power band in that engine and in that vehicle. But once you start getting up and above, you start losing the torque capabilities of it. And I think you're getting a lot of that wind resistance from just towing a big brick down the highway. And it doesn't like it once you start getting into faster speeds. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. But so the first night in Mojave was fun. We pulled in, it was like 10, 11 o'clock at night, something like that. So we just we had dinner on the road on our way in. And so we didn't have any dinner to make or anything. So we just literally left the trailer on the Bronco, hitched up, and crawled into bed, went back and slept in the trailer and went to bed. So from the time we found the camping spot, which, by the way, Overlander, that app we were talking about, worked great for finding dispersed camping spots. So we found the first one down in Mojave, and pretty much pulled in. Finally, once we found a spot that we wanted to sit at for the night, we just kind of jumped out of the Bronco and crawled into the trailer and went to bed. It was nice. Woke up in the morning and put the awning out and made breakfast. We kind of lounged around a little bit, made some coffee, went hiking. We went and checked out. We were right next to some lava activity, like some lava rock activity. So I went hiking up and over that in the morning with the coffee. And then
like actual molten lava, like flowing lava.
No, like it was hardened, hardened like lava rock. Pumice, whatever it's called. I don't know. So anyways, it was that area has a couple of lava tubes that you can actually go hiking down if you wanted to go a little bit further out. And so we decided not to because we wanted to keep our trip continuing. But we went hiking up and over all the lava rock instead with our morning coffee. And I made coffee and breakfast on the electric burner. And so for the trip, I bought 2 1,000 watt electric infrared burners. Okay. And thinking I had a 2,000 watt inverter to be able to run the burners on. And
what do you mean thinking?
Thinking because, well, I was right, but like I kind of forgot that there's an efficiency factor with inverters. Okay. Yeah. And so one burner, even though it pulls 1,000 watts, the inverter shows it using about 1,100 watts because of the efficiency factor of converting DC to AC. Okay. So, which means if I have 2 1,000 watt burners hooked up and running at the same time, I'm over maxing the capacity of the inverter, which is 2,000 watts. And it's 2,000 watt capacity because the batteries can only output 200 amps at one time. And so once you're at 2,000 watts, you're pretty much approaching that 200 amp output capacity of the batteries.
What if you don't have the infrared or the range up at high? What if it's at medium? Is that an option?
Yes and no. So the thing about infrared versus induction, I think you can set it at like say half power and it'll only use 500 watts if it's 1,000 watt induction top. With infrared, it's full on. If it's on, it's either on or off. And then what it does is it manages how much time it spends being on in order to get your different heat settings.
Okay.
So the coils are, when they're on full for 30 seconds at a time, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, whatever it is, depending on your heat setting. So I learned that during breakfast on the first day. So I was like, well, I can't use the second burner, which means I have to make breakfast. I got to make the coffee first, and then I got to make the egg scrambles. And so I've now kind of fixed that. I think I ordered up a 2-burner 1,700 watt electric top portable thing. So we can run 2 burners at the same time, and it shouldn't ever pull more than I think 1850 watts on the inverter. So anyways, so I did that, figured out that little problem the very first morning for breakfast. I used the batteries down to about 90%. And they were fully charged off of the solar and the DC to DC off of the vehicle, off of the Bronco within an hour, a couple hours maybe of driving in the morning. I just know that at our first gas stop out of Mojave, the batteries were fully recharged already. So
that's impressive.
Yeah. The other thing, the Bronco. So we only get like 180 miles on a tank of gas while towing the trailer at 70 miles an hour. So
is the gas tanks different sizes for the different size motors?
That's a good question. I don't know. Our gas tank is, I think, 17 gallons, 17 gallon tank in the Bronco. So, and we can't go all the way to 180 miles because then you're using it all and you're kind of making things a little too close there on the gas. So we were refilling about every 150 miles.
Wow.
Going out there. I was like, well, that was a downside of the Bronco, but it's kind of nice having the trailer. So after the first day, we went from Mojave out to St. George.
Okay. Yeah.
And it only took us, I was surprised, it only took us like 3.5 hours to get out to St. George.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. The problem, though, was when we got to St. George, we tried using the iOverlander app to find camping, and there's very few places to camp for dispersed camping out of St. George on public lands. And the reason, there's a lot of public lands, though. Here's the trick. So what the out of like Gemini Bridges and the Labyrinth Canyons area out of Moab, what they're trying to do and take out a bunch of the dispersed camping areas and really cut it down to designated sites only for dispersed camping.
Yeah.
They did that in St. George already.
Oh, wow.
So there was a couple places that we were trying to get to, and every place we went to was full because we were coming in on Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, and we could not find a camping spot. We drove around for 2.5 hours in public lands and could not find a designated site open for dispersed camping out of St. George.
That's incredible.
So I was like, well, what the hell do we do now? And it was like 7:30, almost 8 p.m. by that time. So we're trying to like call hotels, and like St. George, a tiny ass town. So all the hotels were closed at like 7.
Oh,
so
man.
we couldn't call even to try and get a hotel spot. We called the KOA, the local KOA, and they were full. And I was just like, what do you do when you come across this situation where you've got all these public lands? And it's like, it's not like there weren't open spots available. Like there was spots that already had the vegetation removed from it that were great one night dispersed camping spot, but because they weren't a designated site, they actually had a sign up that says no camping here. And I was like, but it's such a great little spot to let somebody camp at, but you're saying nobody can camp here, even though it's a great spot for it already. So I don't know. It was just, I was like, what do you do in that situation as a user? Do you just drive on to the next town? Do you try and go to somewhere else? Or I don't know.
I think you just kind of got to keep looking for the most part, or phone a friend.
Yeah. Cause like literally it was, I don't know, 1,500 acres, 2,000 acres worth of land that we were driving around trying to find a spot at. And there was only 48 spots, designated sites for camping.
That seems really low.
Right. That's what I thought too. So yeah, there was not a whole lot of campsites. I texted Ben from Blue Ribbon Coalition and I was like, hey, you live in St. George, Washington County here. Is this normal? And he goes, yeah, for April, it's pretty normal. All the sites get used up pretty quickly. And I'm like, is there any talk from BLM or anybody on trying to increase the number of sites out here available? And he goes, no, if anything, they're trying to decrease them. And I was like, well, that's just stupid. Like that makes me never want to stop in St. George now. Like if I'm,
you won't get a spot to camp.
Yeah. It's not worth trying to spend 2.5 hours when I can get another 2.5 hours up the hill and find a great dispersed camping spot up in, 7,000 feet by a river. A great little camping spot up there. I was like, it literally makes me not even want to consider St. George for stopping in and getting food or groceries or gas or fuel up or helping spend money with their economy at all if I'm not going to be able to find camping out there. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing driving around St. George. What we ended up doing was there was like a little dig site out in the area that had tailings from a dig that somebody was doing, some construction company.
Sure.
And we just kind of drove into the dig site and tucked in between a couple of the piles of tailings and camped for the night. So
got it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was still BLM land, there was no active heavy equipment or active equipment in the area at all. But we just kind of tucked in and we weren't visible from the road. So, yeah.
Kind of snuck one in there.
Yep. We snuck in there, made dinner that night, got to play and we hung out, a little bit longer after sunset outside of the trailer and, got to use the lights for that come in. This first time I really got to use the lights for the, Ironman awning that come in the awning. So the lights, first off, the adhesive that you use to like stick them up into the little C channel on the awning is crap.
Oh no.
It's terrible adhesive. I had to end up zip tying the lights up into the C channel, which works. It's just, I'm like, I wish there was a little bit different fastener way to fasten these up in here. But the lights work awesome. I'll give them that. They diffuse the light really, really well. And there's 3 different light levels 4 or 5 different light levels for 3 different light colors.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because there's white, amber, and yellow.
Yep. Pretty much white, yellow, and orange, amber. And so we set it on the amber setting, lowest as we could, and just kind of hung out there and, talked and enjoyed the evening. We had dinner. What did I make for dinner that night? It wasn't burger night. Burger night was up in the mountains. Oh, I made fajitas, chicken fajitas.
Oh, nice. Fancy.
Yep. Made chicken fajitas on the burner and then made some hot chocolate afterwards and then ran the camp lights at night and then woke up the next morning, made coffee and egg scrambled breakfast and used up, I think, 80, 70, you went down to, so I used up 20 to 30% of the battery. I think it was like 28% of the battery for dinner and breakfast and running the lights at night. And then it was fully charged by the time we got to Tokerville, which was our next stop. And we got to Tokerville around noon. So it was fully charged in about 3.5 hours.
So you used, let's just say 30% for dinner, lounging around, and breakfast.
Yep.
You probably aren't going to need a whole lot of power for lunches.
No.
So you're pretty much burning 30% a day.
I would guess that's kind of what my calculation came out to, 30% a day. And from using average usage, right?
Yeah. So if you didn't have any way to charge it, you could last 3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 days on average usage. I think I can get it out to 4 to 5 days if I wanted to really try and stretch out the power, the electricity, and the batteries.
That's cool.
Yep. So we did that. Went out to Tokerville on Sunday, and we went to Tokerville Falls. So the cool thing about taking the little camping trailer is that we were able to drop the trailer at kind of the little parking air down spot for the Tokerville Falls trailhead.
Okay.
Dropped it there, put it on the chocks, and locked up the coupler for the trailer hitch, right? So I put one of those locking couplers in there and then went off and took the Bronco, aired it down, and went out to Tokerville Falls. And so I drove out to the falls. And when we got there, we were kind of pulling up to the falls. And there was a few people out there. There was 4 or 5 other rigs already out at the falls. We started pulling up to the top of the falls because the secretary wanted to get a picture of the Bronco with the top of the falls. And so I was like, do you want me to like drive across? Do you want to drive across and get a picture in the falls or on the other side? And she goes, no, I don't think so. Cause the falls are roaring.
Yeah.
Usually Tokerville Falls is kind of like a little trickle going through. It's just kind of a nice, pleasant thing to look at. And this, while we were there, it was just flowing through. The entire width of the falls had a shit ton of water coming through it. So she kind of looked at it and was like, no, we're not going to do that. And I was like, okay, go ahead and get out. And then you can kind of tell me where you want the Bronco for the picture. So she gets out of the Bronco, shuts the door, and I take off to go across the falls.
Did you go through?
Yeah. So
it was roaring. I saw the photos.
It was roaring. And so I knew roughly about how deep the falls are normally. And there was a Ford Raptor on the other side of the falls. So I figured if a Ford Raptor made it to the other side of the falls, I wasn't going to have any issues. I was just going to take it slow and stick my head out the window and see how high up the water gets as I'm going. But yeah, I just kind of went for it. And everybody was watching me because like, I didn't get out to check the water depth or anything. And I got over and around onto the other side of the falls and immediately found a rock to park up on top of with the front passenger tire. So while I was doing that, I mean, everybody's looking over at this brand new, $60,000, $70,000 Bronco, just immediately going straight into the waterfall and then parking up on a rock on the other side. And it was entertaining for quite a few people.
They must have thought you were such a noob.
Probably.
They're like, who's this guy in a brand new vehicle, just not caring or giving a crap, and they just drive straight into the water.
Yep. Who's this?
Drive right
idiot?
through it. Didn't even check. Didn't even, didn't go to Dream Flows or anything.
I know, right? So, yeah, that was funny. Once I took the Bronco off of the rock and drove it back across the waterfall, there was a bunch of people that were like, were you concerned about doing that? I was like, no, not really. I just watched the water level as I was driving across, and it never got up to my sliders. So I knew everything was going to be just fine. That was another guy that was like, I want to go do that and take my kids over. And they had like a brand new Dodge 1500. A Ram. And I was like, do it. I'm sure they would get a huge kick out of it. And they're like, no. He's like, no, this is like our first trip out with this truck. And I was like, you're going to be just fine. You weigh more than I do. You're going to be perfectly fine. Just go slow, put it in 4x low. And he like wouldn't do it. And I was like, all right, whatever. So, while I was there though, I met a really cool guy who had an HZJ61.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And it had
HBJ.
HBJ. There you go. It was the HBJ 61, which is the same rig that Kurt Williams has.
Yes.
And so when he pulled up, I immediately was like, did I just run into Kurt out here? And so I went over to the rig, and it wasn't. It was a much younger kid. And I was like, interesting. So I asked him, I was like, where'd you get this Land Cruiser from? And he goes, I've had it for a little while. He goes, it's an 87 HBJ 61, and started telling me some stuff about it. And I was like, I've seen this rig or one just like it in somewhere else, and I know who it belongs to. So, and I know that they still have it. So I'm curious, he goes, oh, you know Kurt Williams? I was like, yes. And so he knows Kurt, and he goes, yep, this is pretty much like, these are the only two vehicles in the United States right now that are the HBJ 61s. And so I was like, that's funny. So getting to talk with him and talking with him about his rig and what he's done with it. And then talking with him about the stuff going on around Moab and Sand Hollow. He's a native to Hurricane. So yeah, it was fun just chatting with him for a while about truck stuff. Cool. And Land Cruiser stuff and land use stuff. So he was really neat. And then on the way back from Tokerville Falls, on the way out of the trail, I made the Secretary drive.
Okay.
The Bronco. Good. And so she got to kind of play around with the Bronco and see what it can do off-road. And she did great with it. The Bronco did awesome. There was only one kind of ledge that she came down that the Bronco is just really low to the ground. It's almost, I think it might have a little bit more clearance than like a JL does.
Okay.
But the lower link brackets on the frame side, so the frame side lower link brackets for the rear axle, they just hang down low. They're like 3 inches below the frame.
Right. Yeah.
And they're right in front of the tires. So anytime you're going to like go over a rock, go over a ledge or something, you end up hitting those frame brackets before going up. And so we were coming down a ledge, and she kind of scraped the gas tank skid plate as we were coming down a ledge. And then when she went up a ledge, she hit those frame brackets. I couldn't figure out why we weren't going anywhere. And I was like, you pick a different line or goose it a little bit more to get over those frame brackets. So yeah. I will give the Bronco some big major kudos though on their skid plates. Ford put some actually like usable skid plates under the Broncos.
Okay. Is that just the package you got, do you think? Or is it, you think all of them have that?
That's a good question. I don't remember seeing anything in the Badlands package or the Sasquatch package about having reinforced or beefed up skid plates. But the skid plates are actually like, you can actually use them as skid plates.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if I would use them very long as skid plates, but especially the gas tank skid plate, it's like a dual layered thing that actually provides a lot of protection for your gas tank. So I was very impressed with the skid plates. They worked great. We used them multiple times throughout the week. And so yeah, credit to Ford on the skid plates for the Bronco.
Nice. How long is the trail into Tokerville Falls from like the staging area?
at a average pace, I would say plan on it taking about 40 minutes, maybe 45.
Okay.
Yeah. From the trailhead.
Got it.
Yep.
Cool.
But
so a few miles.
Yeah, a few miles. Tokerville Falls was really cool. That was a neat thing to see, especially with it roaring as much as it was, with how much water was coming down it. So we drove out, hooked up the trailer, aired it back up, and then took off and headed up to our Sunday night camp spot, which was on Highway 70, which is also Highway 50, between Tokerville and Moab, roughly a third of the way up. We went up, and there's a really cool dispersed camping site right next to a creek at like 6,800 feet, I think it was. 6,800 feet up there. So there was still snow in the camp spot.
I was going to ask. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that one was cool. That was my favorite camp spot for the trip in, mainly because they're just up at elevation. We're right next to a river, which I love rivers. I'm not a big fan of deserts. I just think that I just don't like sun. me and the son have agreed to not get along ever. So being up there was a really nice shade coverage from trees and this cute little creek stream we were camped next to with a little bit of snow there. So that's when I made burgers for dinner. And then we also pulled out the Starlink to test it.
Okay, cool.
And so we set up the Starlink, and was getting pretty decent signal. I was getting about 60 to 70 megabits per second download, 20 to 30 upload. And the secretary had a work meeting that she had to be on Monday morning for a video conference meeting.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, let's test the Starlink and make sure it works here in this location. We don't have a lot of obstructions. And there was a few obstructions which were causing knockouts in service every 45 seconds for like 2 to 3 seconds at a time. So it wasn't huge. And granted, we were testing that. Like the Starlink says that it needs roughly like 15 minutes to kind of figure out where satellites are positioned, where it's going to receive the best signal from, figure out where obstructions are, and position itself in the best spot. It takes about 15 minutes to kind of figure all that out and do. And we were testing it at about 8 to 10 minutes into that setup. So we ended up deciding that the conference was too important to rely on the Starlink for, and that we were just going to pack up early in the morning, head into town, find a Starbucks for her to be able to take her conference call at. So that night we cooked dinner, made burgers, and then ran music at the campsite since we were the only ones there, and had lights on exterior of the trailer. I did breakfast in the morning and coffee. No, sorry. We did not do breakfast and coffee in the morning because we were going to go to a Starbucks in the morning. So
right.
I did dinner, but then it was so cold at night that we ran the heated blanket all night long, and I left the Starlink running all night as well.
Okay. And so what was the batteries down to then?
It went down to 59%.
That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad for that. It would have used another roughly 15% if we had made breakfast. So it would have gotten down to roughly 45 to 40% on the batteries if we had made breakfast too. And so that would have been a heavy usage scenario in my opinion, because we ran the heated blanket all night long, right? So to be able to have it as a heavy usage scenario and get down to 45% in a day means that I could probably make it last 2 days in heavy usage scenarios if I really needed to. So
sure. Yeah. And I'd be curious to know what if you just leave the trailer in one position and it's only gaining solar power to charge the batteries, how much that's going to charge it.
So I did the math on it, and assuming full 350 watts from the panel, it would take about 6 to 7 hours to fully refill if I drain the batteries all the way down. So 3 to 4 hours of solar would be needed in order to refill the batteries on a heavy usage day.
So you sound like you're in a pretty sweet spot there with the amount of power that you can get to charge the batteries and the amount of power that you're using on a heavy usage.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not doing any driving that day and you're in a decently sunny spot, you're probably going to charge the batteries back up.
Yep, exactly. And I think I'm going to be adding in, I have that other 250 watt panel that I can run and plug into the DC to DC port. So I can plug it in so that it's charging through the DC to DC charger as if the vehicle was there. But that 250 portable panel is portable. And it would be on like a 50-foot electric wire lead, so I could move it around. So in theory, we would have 350 watts on top of the trailer that wouldn't move while we're camping, and then another 250 that we could move around and keep in the sun. So at worst case scenario, I think 200 to 250 watts of rechargeable power. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I was really, really happy with how the trailer worked for the power system in the trailer. Super happy with it. I think it's going to work out awesome moving forward. I just need to clean up the wiring. I need to put in a bulkhead to get the wiring to go through the roof rather than through the door. Currently, it's kind of messing with the wiring. So I also want to redo the latches on the door, the back door to the trailer. But the Starlink was kind of fun to play around with because our plan for Monday morning was to go into town and let the secretary get on a Starbucks Wi-Fi to be able to take her work conference call. And then I was going to get some work done for Morphlate. Turns out the only Starbucks in town was one of those ones that's like inside of a grocery store.
Oh, yeah. So no free Wi-Fi.
They did have free Wi-Fi, but they didn't have any power at the tables.
Oh,
to
weird.
Plug in your laptops at or anything like that. So, and the Wi-Fi wasn't really that great. We were trying to connect to it and it was loading really slow and it was giving really slow internet speeds. And so I was like, look, we're in the middle of a parking lot. There's no trees where the trailer is. Let's just go back out to the trailer. We have internet with the Starlink and we've got power just fine to run the laptops and recharge stuff. Let's go back out to the trailer. You can work, take your calls in the trailer. We'll set you up a little office space in there. I'll put the Starlink on top of the trailer. And that's what we ended up doing. And she ended up taking her work call, and nobody noticed that she was out in the middle of nowhere off grid.
That's awesome.
Kind of thing. So the Starlink worked awesome. It worked great. And I'm looking forward to kind of adding that into the setup, into the mix later on in the future, and make it a little bit more of a portable unit. So I have a couple of different ideas. I'm not sure which route I'm going to go with on it yet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a good trip. So was that Starbucks in Moab or did you still have a little bit farther to go from there?
We still had a little bit further from that Starbucks. We were about 2.5 hours out. And so we ended up showing up in Moab around, I think 3:30, because we did go into Sand Hollow as well. I think that was the day we went to Tokerville Falls. We went into Sand Hollow and checked out Sand Hollow and the lake and the reservoir there at Sand Hollow. So that was kind of neat to just go in and check out and take a look at for a little bit or a couple hours before we headed up to the mountain campsite. And then we pulled into Moab around 3:30, 4 o'clock on Monday. Yep. And then Tuesday we went hiking in Canyonlands, which was fun. So I went for a few different hikes there in Canyonlands. They were interesting hikes. We went to the Aztec Butte, which was kind of cool. We almost died because it was super windy and you have to hike up the side of this like plateau that's really steep and there's not really like any places for you to hike with, like to put your feet in solid places. You're just kind of sticking your shoes to the side of this hillside and it was really windy. We almost got blown off a bunch of times. So
sounds fun.
I don't recommend going and doing the Aztec Butte hike on a day when it's windy. But otherwise it was a cool hike. So that one was neat. We also went and checked out the Upheaval Dome, which was kind of interesting when you're looking at it because everything in Moab, all the rock formations in Moab are layered laterally, right?
Yeah.
And so
sedimentary layers.
And when at this spot called Upheaval Dome, you can get there and look at it, and it's this giant circle. It's almost like a meteor strike hit. Like it's this, God, what is that called?
A bowl?
Like a giant bowl. Yeah.
Okay.
But the rock in the middle of the bowl is all aligned vertically. And so there's there's like this small mountain in the middle of the bowl, and all the sediment rock there is all layered vertically. And it's like the only place in Utah where rock is layered vertically. And it's this really kind of weird thing that nobody really knows what's going on and why it's layered vertically rather than horizontally.
Aliens.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, ancient aliens.
They're tapping into your Starlink.
Yes, they are. So anyways, that was kind of cool to look at and just kind of see the stark contrast and think of what the hell would cause a perfect circular bowl with vertically aligned rocks in the middle. So
it's where the aliens landed and took off. That's out their crater from their engines.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I personally think that it was one of the main hubs for John Carter, if you've seen that movie.
I don't know if I have.
Oh.
Sorry.
Bummer. Somebody out there, I don't think many of our listeners have seen that movie, but if you have, somebody out there is like, no, yeah, totally. That's where the hub was for John Carter's little transporter thing. Anyways, cool. Yeah, so that was my trip in. Everything went really great. I'm really happy with how the trailer performed. I'm really happy with how the Bronco performed. Even with the trailer on it, I can get up and pass people just fine and hit like 80 miles an hour and for short bursts. I didn't try running the trailer more than like 72, 73 for sustained, but I had the cruise control on the whole time to see if it would make it up and over the passes with the cruise control on at like 65 to 70 miles an hour. And it did it no problem. Used a ton of gas, but it did it no problem. Didn't overheat. I was watching the temperature gauges just to see what would happen. And it didn't really seem like it stressed out the vehicle too much. So impressed with it so far.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clifford had a few good runs. It was funny because when I was driving home, when I drove there, I was like cruising at 70 to 75, down Highway 80 out in Nevada and Utah. Mm-hmm. And then on the way home, I was cruising to Camp Lee.
Who can only go 45.
I was like, I'm going to keep it right around this. How fast are we going? He's like, you're going 65. I'm like, no, it's like 72. And the speedometer in Clifford is off for some weird reason. I don't think I have different tire sizes, but maybe I do. The smaller, I don't understand it. Oh no, they'd be a little larger. No, they'd be smaller, wouldn't they? Because it would be the speed I'm actually going is different than the miles per hour.
If the speed you're actually going is lower than what your speedometer says, then yeah, your tires are smaller.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure about that. And I pulled it up on GPS and it was right. It was like 2 to 3 miles an hour, different, about 65 miles an hour is what the Google's GPS, on maps was saying I was going compared to that. So I think I was only going 65 to 70 and, getting over
time
here.
When you're coming over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But on the way home, I was cruising we were going about 70 miles an hour.
Okay.
The whole way home. So it was pretty good.
That's about what we were too. You were slowly catching up to us, I think, because we were taking a lot more gas stops.
Yeah, I think so. Near the end there, and maybe we'll talk about this later, but we took a few more extra, we drove and we stopped for gas and we tried to get food or do anything we needed at that one stop. But near the end, it was like Tyler or Lee wanted to check something out on his rig. We stopped for food, and then we stopped for gas, and then we stopped for something else. Yeah. Near when we were getting almost into California, there was a bunch of additional stops that
threw off timing.
Weren't necessarily all, we could have done it all at once.
Yeah.
But we didn't. But yeah.
Well, cool. Do you want to talk about your trailer issue on this episode, or do you want to save that for Moab?
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that. I forgot pretty much entirely about that. So it's pretty much as soon as I got into Nevada, there was this weird vibration kind of going on. Mm-hmm. and it was driving down the highway it would start at like 50-ish miles an hour, and it would not really get any worse or any better until about 70 miles an hour. And it would kind of just reduce its, I don't know what you want to call it, volume. Yeah, I don't know. But it would be this weird vibration that would just come and go. It'd be all brr, 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 and it wasn't like continuous. It didn't really change with speed or RPMs. It just kind of happened between, it started at like 45 to 50 and it was about the same the whole way up linearly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I called Jason Green actually, and I said, hey, you've been wheeling or, driving with the trailer for a long time. I'm having this issue. And he goes, oh, it's your tires. I'm like, okay, but what is
going on?
And he said, I don't know exactly. Maybe one of them's not balanced right. Maybe one of them's delaminating. Maybe one of the tread is separating. You just need to look at them. I said, okay. And so I pulled off somewhere at a rest stop in Nevada, and I did a once over, and I looked at them, and I was like, everything looks good to me.
Yeah, everything looks fine.
And ended up driving the whole way to Moab with that going on, and it was a pain in the butt. It really it was very annoying.
Yeah.
This vibration going on. And my jaw was really hurting because you either had to be like completely loose jawed so that your teeth didn't rattle, or you clench your jaw so your teeth didn't rattle.
Yeah. One or the other.
And
so you were clenching the whole time. So your jaw was hurting.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a clincher, I guess. Let's see. So when we got into town on Tuesday, I said, I got to figure this out. So I went and drove Clifford with the trailer, and the trailer was bouncing all over the place. And then I disconnected the trailer and went and drove around, and there was no vibration. Nothing was happening.
Okay.
And so we went, I loaded the trailer back up. You joined me then, and we went down through Moab because we were parked kind of on the south side, and there's this trailer shop on the north side. What was it? Grand Tire Pros.
Yep. That was it.
And, yeah, we drove up into their parking lot, and I hopped out, and one of the techs was like beaming right over to us, right. And
he was already like, walking over. Yeah.
Yeah. And we did kind of talk about a little bit of this in the last podcast, but I jokingly walked up to him and was like, I think I got a problem with my trailer. And he was like, yeah, I heard you coming.
Yeah. Yep.
And so he's like, you got a delaminating tire. And I was like, where? And he pointed it out to us. And he showed us how it is curving up, and it was separating, from the core of the tire. And
the tread was.
The tread was, and how it arcs away from that. And it made it sort of oblong, like an egg shape. And so every time that part of the tire would go around, it would lift the trailer up, and it would make it bounce. So I talked to the guy, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'll get a tire. Let's replace it. Is it silly to get one tire, or should I get two tires for the axle? And he's like, no, one's fine. And then when he was taking the tires off, or that tire off, he realized there was another tire that was delaminating. And so I was like, fine. All right, let's just buy 5 new tires. So that was, an unexpected expense that I had to pay, but I did upgrade they were load range Ds, and I went to load range E.
Oh, nice.
And and so they're a better tire, better brand, and, a higher rated tire. And it was, I felt more comfortable at that moment driving home, with a better setup on there, and something better than, because the guy, even the boss was like, I've never even heard of those brands of tires before.
Oh, interesting.
That were on the trailer. Yeah. And he said they were only 3 years old.
Really?
Which
the date codes on them said they were only 3 years old and they were delaminating already. Jeez.
Yeah.
And
so whoever I bought that,
you keep your tires covered too, though.
I do.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't for a while. So there was a year or two that since I've had the trailer that I didn't have them covered, and I have had them covered in the last year or so. But I think it was just a combo of, I am carrying a somewhat heavier object, right? The tires haven't been covered for a while. They're load range D cheap tires.
Yeah.
And I do some decent hauls, over to Moab a few times a year or once a year and back and, and trailer it up into the mountains. And so I think it was just this perfect storm of the cheap version that destroyed them.
Yeah.
And now that I put some brand name load range EE tires on there,
hopefully I'll get a little bit more time out of them.
Yeah. And I have the covers and everything now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I'll get more than 3 years out of
it. Nice. Well, cool. Yeah. I'm glad that, that got all resolved. It was funny as we pulled into the parking lot, that dude's like, oh, yep, there's a culprit right there, like from 20 feet away. And we're like, what? How do you know that? And he goes,
how can you tell?
Yeah. So we got a little lesson on how to tell when tires delaminate, which is cool.
Yeah. So, it's good to know for the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool, man. All of the trips, everybody coming into Moab, sounds like the only real issue anybody had was your trailer tires, but you didn't have a blowout or anything. You just had a very chattery ride.
Yeah.
I was
shocked it made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lee showed up and he, as far as I know, didn't really have any issues coming in. And then we also stayed with Will for the week, Will Wang from Apollo 9 Motors. And he did the Kokopelli Overlander trip on the way in. So yeah, it was kind of neat learning about that and how that runs and works. But everybody made it in just fine. Nobody really had any issues. And we had a fun week out at Moab after that. So we'll get into that on Monday's episode for everybody.
Yeah, that sounds great. I hope you guys over there, Tyler and the secretary, are get better here soon.
Yep.
Then we can meet up in person and do some recording.
Yeah.
We'll see. So, cool. I think that's about it on our end.
Sweet. If anybody has any feedback for the show, if you have any questions about the final work got done to Bobcat before taking off, you can send those over to Jimmy at snailtrail4x4.com, or sorry, snailtrail4x4 on Instagram. If you have any questions about the trailer, how the trailer worked out, any of the electrical setup, you can send those over to me, 4x4 Toyota Tyler over on Instagram. There's also the emails, Tyler and Jimmy at snailtrail4x4.com. There's all sorts of different ways to listen to the podcast and support it. We did our WINCH giveaway. So we are still waiting to hear from the winner and the backup winner for the WINCH giveaway. So
who was that? Username names? Unknown 69420. No, username already taken.
Yes, username already taken. 69420 was the first one.
Z 60421.
60. That sounds correct. Actually, I'm impressed.
Something like that.
Yeah. Nice. So we're still waiting on those two people to reach out to us for the WINCH giveaway. And we are getting closer to finalizing the next giveaway at 750 reviews. So keep those reviews coming over on Apple Podcasts, also, which was formerly known as iTunes. Keep those reviews rolling over there, because once we get to 750, we'll be doing another giveaway that everybody will get another chance to win at. And you get as many chances as reviews you have submitted. So remember that you also need to be listening to the podcast and paying attention to it to figure out if you win or not when we do the winners.
Maybe keep track of your aliases.
Yeah, that too. So we got a lot of cool stuff we're doing here. We have some really fun things in the works for June and July, and something fun in the works for May's giveaway, which we will hopefully get to announce next week for everybody. So if you have any questions, send them on in. Any comments? We do have a lot of voicemails we need to get to. They're kind of building up now because we haven't had time to do voicemails in a while. So we'll need to get to those. Maybe we can do those. I don't know. I think Monday is going to be a long episode too, with all the Moab shenanigans.
Yeah, maybe next Thursday.
Yeah, but looks like we have 5 or 6 voicemails right now. So we'll do those next Thursday. Cool. Anything else, bud?
That's all on my end.
Sweet. Sounds good. I guess without further ado then, any final words for everybody out there, Mr. Jimmy Jet?
I thought it was funny how the trailer has bigger tires than your Bronco.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Yeah?
How did the hipster burn his tongue?
I don't know.
He drank his coffee before it was cool.
Okay.